You know who made it.
And we are live from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Instagram. It's Revening's WinsDay. Welcome to WinsDay, Revenue Party people. We've got a special daytime episode, and newsflash, we're going daytime every week in 2025. Started off as a nighttime show when I was still working full time. And now I don't work full time somewhere else anymore. I work for myself. And so I'm moving it because it just is more in alignment with my own life as a mom and my schedule. And I won't have to hire a sitter, etc., etc. But thank you for being here. Where are you all tuning in from? What are you doing today during work? How many of you do we have here on LinkedIn? I know we have 177 registered. Hopefully you're showing up. I see 3 on YouTube. Oh, wait, no, that's 2 on YouTube and 1 on Twitch. Hey, who's on Twitch? Let us know, and hopefully more people start showing up. Click repost so we can build this party because we've got some hot prizes and hot guests. Let's get right into it. Thank you so much to High Level and Cherry Assistant for making this entire episode possible. Cherry Assistant helped put together this entire episode, that from the overlays that you're seeing to the video to the coordination with the guests. I couldn't do it without Layla, who works with me one-on-one. She's my primary virtual assistant. I work with her all day long, and she's helping me not only move my own live stream along, but also client work as well. So, but virtual assistants do more than just that. They can help you with your data entry. They can help you with sales outreach. There's so much more. So definitely reach out to Cherry Assistant. I put up my QR code, or you can just go to their website and mention that you heard about it here on WinsDay. And they can align you with a virtual assistant who has the skills and the timeline to help you with what you need. And then also High Level. I use High Level for everything. High Level is a CRM and marketing automation platform that allows me to send the weekly newsletter from revenue.com if you want to go there and subscribe to it. But every week we're letting you know who we're talking to, and we do a recap of last week's episode. We're also keeping you updated on what's going on in the Women Wave community. And the newsletter is co-ed, so everyone can kind of keep up on what's going on. So yeah, definitely go subscribe to the newsletter, but check out High Level, and there'll be a little bit of a 3-minute video that I'll play just to introduce you to some of the cool things that High Level can do, but it does everything. I mean, like I said, CRM, and right now I'm migrating B2B SaaS companies from Salesforce and HubSpot to High Level. There are, just new tools out here that everyone can start to think about that, are helping them as well. So there's just different needs for different businesses. So start to explore high level and see if it works for you as well. And I'll put up this QR code. It's reveting.com/high level if you're listening to this on podcast, and you can get a 30-day free trial. But let's get right into it. So thank you for being here, Layla. Really appreciate your support. Welcome to the show, Lori and Daniel. I'm so happy to have you here. But I want to just jump right into it and put the 2 minutes on the clock and let the audience hear for themselves why you're so amazing. I know why you're so amazing. And you're both, really leaders. Lori, you're a leader in sales and also so much in community, but also specifically, we could say women's communities. You've influenced so many women out there, and including myself, just by watching you secondhand on LinkedIn. And so, we get to learn from you, but how did you get here? And I know you've been on the show before, and you have a really touching story from where you were born to what brought you to now. I'm going to put up the 2 minute clip. Could you please fill us back in on that story?
Got it. Hey, Jessie. Hey, everybody. It's great to be here. I cannot do my life story in 2 minutes, but I will hit the highlights that I got into the career of professional business-to-business sales because I was a young single mom in my early 20s. I had left a very bad domestic violence situation, marriage, at a young age. I left with my life, my son's life, and I couldn't afford to support him on my teacher's salary. So I looked into getting into the early days of tech back in the mid 80s, 1980s. And luckily, a company took a chance on me. As a previous teacher, and I had been a server, and that could, they saw that there was some potential there. I started on straight commission, hit the ground running, and never looked back. And so I love sales as a career, particularly for single parents, particularly women who might be in the poverty line, like I was, where I was making minimum wage trying to support a family. And so I encourage all the time. I've been encouraging women to look into sales, and that's where I live, is business to business sales space, and have my own podcast and called Conversations with Women in Sales. And I'm a sales strategist for all sorts of businesses. I work mostly with men in that situation, but women and men, and really happy to be here.
And we're really happy to have you, Lori. And we're really happy to have you too, Dan. And I got to meet you at Exit 5 this year. And wow, was I impressed that every company you have joined to help has grown basically by 300% or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's really impressive. And we all want to know what's the secret sauce, especially when it comes to community, because it means so many things to so many people. But in 2 minutes, before we get into all that, because we can find that on LinkedIn, we also want to know your real life story, because we just heard Lori's. Man, it was so heartfelt. And I know it's hard to follow Lori, but
Yeah.
you have a real authentic story as well, because I remember during your speech at Exit 5, there was an earth oven involved. I mean, so you're doing all sorts of creative and fun and human things. So tell us about yourself, Dan.
Well, first off, it's just such a pleasure to be here with you and Lori. I loved our chat at Exit 5. That was an amazing event. And then when you asked me to be on the podcast and suggested a guest, I was really excited to suggest my mentor and friend, Lori. Lori, you're so amazing. And so my background is one of understanding that everything I've been doing in life is the same thing: political fundraising, political persuasion, sales, marketing. They're all the same thing. And I believe they stem from finding success in them stems from two things. One is like a deep understanding of human psychology and how to motivate people to take actions to advocate for you. And the other is an understanding of human psychology in terms of how to get the best out of those teams that you serve. I've been really lucky. I had a team at Chili Piper that was amazing, where we scaled from about 15 to 80% of the revenue coming from community-led programs. And a bunch of those folks followed me to Apollo, where we had a similar story. In both cases, we raised a bunch of money, increased revenue several 100% within the first year that I went there. And I'm just really lucky. My last job didn't end quite as well. I've been working for Kamala Harris for the last few months. Obviously, that was a disaster. But the principles of being efficient and being high leverage and being good to those around you, they stand true kind of regardless of what role you're in. And aside from working, I love nature. I'm in Vermont right now. I'm at the airport, about to go to the White House for the world's saddest Christmas party, but it'll be a good time. And I'm really just honored to be here with you and Lori in particular, because I've looked up to you for so long, Lori. And thank you so much for being a guiding light to thousands of people throughout their careers, including me.
Wow, that is the world's saddest Christmas party. Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan, for those kind words.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Dan. And I'm really looking forward to just sharing so much from both of you through this podcast and this live stream on what topics we're getting into today, because both of you have so much experience and so much knowledge that can really enhance so many people's lives, be it business ownership and their marketing roles, sales roles, or just in life in general. But let's kick it off with the first topic, Lori. Could you talk to us about the future of community-led growth?
Yeah, and before I do that, I want to say, Dan said something about me being a mentor to him. He's a mentor to me because, Dan, I've learned so much about community building from you. And another shout out that I want to make sure that I give now is that this year, Dan single-handedly fundraised for the Barbara Giamanco Memorial Scholarship, and through offering his services and charging a fee and people making a donation to the scholarship with that fee, we were able to gift 12 women a $1,000 scholarship to show them that we're out there in the business community supporting them. And we had over 50 applicants, and we cheered on all those women because we know that women are underrepresented in sales. And so I just want to say a big thank you, Dan, because it wasn't made into a big deal. And I just really appreciate that you single-handedly made that happen. So thank you so much for that.
My pleasure, honestly. It's just a joy to get to work with you in any way. If you ask me to jump, I'll always just say how.
Well, let's talk about community, because I've learned a lot from you, and you were just mentioning Chili Piper went from like 15 to 80%. What did revenue increase through the building of community? Was that
Yeah.
about right?
Yeah, like community, I guess one of the first things, and I'm curious what you think, Lori, is like, how do you define community, right? Because it means so many different things to so many different people. But the stat at Chili Piper was, pipeline sourced by kind of attribution source. Community efforts were about 15% before I joined, about 75% within a year of joining at Chili Piper. And a very similar thing happened at Apollo. I was also at Modern Sales Pros before that, a community where we had a similar growth trajectory.
That's where we first met too. It was Modern Sales Pros.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Way back.
They actually they ripped off your name, right? Women's Sales Pros was there first.
Oh, well, that's all right. That's all right. But, when I think about community, I think about collaboration and I think about connection. Those are all things that are super important in growing revenue, building a brand, building a marketplace, building a company. And so I love when I first started hearing about community-based, growth and things like that. I love it because I've been doing that forever. When I was in selling computers, personal computers, like the early Apple computers, one of the first business machines was called the Macintosh. If anyone has ever heard of that. I started a Macintosh downtown business users group in Seattle. And, that was forever long ago. And it turned into one of the best user groups in the country. And we had all sorts of, tech leaders come and speak at it, Guy Kawasaki and Bill Gates and lots of other people. And, so I've been doing this a long time, and I just feel like it's so much easier to build a company, to build a movement, to build anything together with other people. And it frustrates me sometimes when people don't want to collaborate, when they feel like they have to be a lone wolf and they have to do something on their own. So I look to people like Dan for, to stay, modern. I don't want to do what I did years ago. I want to see how things are changing and moving forward. And so that's why I think it's so good to have like a mutual mentorship like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love everything that you said, both of you. And, we can feel free to like conversate more too, like both of you were there just a second ago. But the future of community-led growth, it's such a beautiful thing, right? I've already had so many emotions, I feel like, in this entire discussion. It's just such a human, natural thing. Talk to us about that, Dan. So in 2025, what do we need to know for the future of community-led growth? Because people say community and they don't really know what it means.
Yeah. No, let's define it. I'll give a definition. I'm curious if people in the chat have a definition they want to give it. But, generally when you think about community in like the revenue sense, there's two types of communities. There's like one that could be owned by marketing and one that could be owned by CS, like a customer community or a community that's meant to drive some sort of pipeline or brand goals. Like I define a community as a space, either physical or digital, where people who aren't explicitly paid to do so freely exchange knowledge and information. This could be a Slack group. It could be an in-person event. It could be the comment section of this podcast on LinkedIn. It could be a lot of things. And then once you understand that, like the way buying decisions happen, it's not like the CFO or the VP of RevOps is like, oh, I just saw a pre-roll ad on YouTube. Decision done. Like buyers are making decisions based on the inputs from like 100 different things over the course of months, right? So for me, the future of community-led marketing is actually getting a little bit away from this obsession we've had with drilling down on data in terms of how to market people. And I saw this a lot on the Harris campaign as well, where we have so much data now on everybody that we can really hone our marketing down to appeal just to very specific personas. But in doing so and using AI to assist this research and stuff, we actually moved somewhat away the broader themes of marketing. That was like part of the heyday of golden marketing, where you're like, you look at a fancy car and you're like, wow, here are the emotions it evokes, right? So for me, community marketing is about understanding those spaces that influence your customers. What are they? Where are they? Is it a blog? Is it a podcast? Is it an in-person event? And then you place the customer voice into those spaces and make the customers feel amazing about advocating for you. There's so much noise right now in marketing, in ads, in companies spending millions of dollars on LinkedIn ads, that there's like a dearth of authenticity, right? And with the profusion of AI created content, there's an insane amount of highly inauthentic content. So I honestly believe that the future of community marketing is the answer to the rise of AI content. It creates a profusion of highly authentic, highly real, high velocity content.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And we need that, right?
Hi,
Because we're
Leslie.
living in the world of AI. Leslie says there aren't a lot of metrics on how people actually feel about your company. And this is Leslie Greenwood of WinsDay Women. Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, it's true. There aren't a lot of metrics on how people actually feel about your company. So Leslie, she's big on community too. Leslie, from the comments, we'd love to hear from you. Like, how do you define community in all of this? And and the future of community to you too, 2025. But before we move on to how to scale your community, is there anything else either of you want to touch on, either Lori or Dan, on the future of community-led growth or community-led marketing?
Yeah, I want to add that we didn't mention this, Dan, but I think it needs to be kind of a safe space, and safe can be a word that can be misused as well. But you need to feel comfortable to be able to share what you have to say and know that someone, it's going to be listened to and not, not just thrown out the window. So I think
Mm-hmm.
having a respectful environment and one that is full of, interest. I call them big picture type people. I like to be around big picture people
Mm.
that can think and can take a comment and maybe put a spin on it, or maybe, give a different opinion, and that's okay. That's what I long for.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a good point, Lori. And it's like the future of something, like the future of things isn't always good, right? Like I believe that the future of community-led growth should be this, but it'll probably be as something different. So I agree with you, Lori, that like the future of community-led growth should be these spaces where people feel safe. But the reality that we're going to see over the next year, I think, is a lot of people doing community really poorly. A lot of communities that are dominated by like a group of bros who are like just sharing broy memes about sales or things like that, or a community that's full of the sponsors of the communities that just selling constantly, or the owners of the communities are under financial constraints, so they have to sell out. That is going to happen a lot as well. Another thing that's going to happen in community-led growth over the next year is a profusion of really bad affiliate partnerships, right? People who kind of sell LinkedIn impressions for money. I think that's fine if it's the right fit, but in most cases it's not the right fit and it's not authentic, right? Like a lot of people are going to try to capture community by having non-customers pretend to be customers. Like I don't think that's community. And I agree with you entirely. It needs to be, if it's done well, a safe space, both in terms of people's identity being respected, people being listened to, people not being bullied, but also in terms of like not being a place where everyone is just constantly selling their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear you on the affiliate thing, but I think the affiliate thing can go really well too, right? Because I'm an affiliate for High Level, full disclosure. So if you sign up on High Level with my link, I get 40% commission lifelong. And so they don't have a sales team because they just have affiliate marketers like me who go get unlimited commission on selling their product at 40%. So it's a great cut.
Well, that's nice because you actually use the tool, right?
Yeah,
If I
I
were to
do.
come out to you and reach out to you and be like, you have a bunch of LinkedIn followers,
No.
go in, talk about my AI demo environment
No, not
thing,
at
and
all.
then you were to do it, it'd be very different. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you
get
use
High
the
Level,
tool, and then I reached
mention
out to
my
the
name.
founder.
I want 40% too. Just kidding. Just kidding.
No, yeah, that's why I think High Level is great, and I think the future is affiliate marketing, but I think you're right. Affiliate marketing can go bad too. But I'm going to get into it. Make sure people are entering to win prizes. I see you there, Leslie. You might want to win a wireless headset. I don't know, or maybe one of the other ones. Let's see. Maybe She Sells or 30 Minutes with Dan.
30 minutes with
So,
Dan, that's the big prize.
Leslie
hello.
must have that book already for sure.
I want
believe
to.
Leslie does. Leslie is a big promoter of the book. Yeah.
100%. No, Leslie's the best. And I'm sure she probably has that book. She probably has all the books. I mean, there are some really awesome just content. There's really awesome content, Lori, that you put out, even just on LinkedIn. So people should go follow you if they don't win the book, but definitely enter to win the book. And
I have a question for Dan.
Yeah.
Dan, what do you think about this movement for paid introductions? Where I know different people, other people know people, and there are companies that have been set up to pay you for an introduction.
Yeah, well, they say like controversial stuff performs well, right? So I will go and kind of loop back to the other thing. Like, I don't know about any of that stuff. I'm not sure about affiliate marketing. I know it's working for you, Lizzie, but I think in some cases when you're just starting up, you need that to get additional groundswell. But I actually think affiliate marketing is sending mixed signals throughout the industry and what actually works and what doesn't. In terms of like a pay for intro thing, that as well as a trade-off you have to make, right? Because like when you're marketing, you need to balance these long-term brand plays, these things that you do yourself with these other things that help you hit your goals. And to some extent, like sponsoring other community or paying for direct intros versus building and training and enabling your own sales team. It's like planting a garden in someone else's lawn, right? You can get vegetables from it and eat it, but like you're going to have to start that over again and again and again. And you're not like having the soil regenerate each year and like the seeds from the kale come back or whatever. The metaphor is getting a little away from us, but I would say it makes sense to some extent. But then when you're doing that and then you're scaling your qualified held meetings, you're scaling your pipeline, at a certain point, there are foundational things you need to do that are high leverage. And this is like a one-off input with a one-off output. You can continue to do that, but it probably won't scale. That's my thought.
Good. Thank you.
What do you think, Lori?
I've done it, and in the right circumstances, I think it's really good. I'm very picky about who I choose to work with, and so
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it with just anyone. I wouldn't do it with just like when I get sponsors for Win the Sales Pros for our newsletter, for example, or for our podcast. I won't do it with just any company. It has to be a company that has a track record, of working to be more inclusive and things like that. When you hear bad things about certain people that are there or have been there, or, there are different companies that we all know have different reputations out there. I just won't work with companies like that. So if I'm selective and it's a good offer, then I'm happy to make an introduction.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's why it's like, the answer to everything is it varies, right? Because it's like, you're a high integrity person, Lori. I trust you. If you advocated for a software, I would say you probably believe the software is good and the people running the software is good. Like when we think of the influencer infrastructure right now, a lot of the people running it, it's their full-time job. Their job is to make money, and they're trying to do that by selling affiliate sponsorships and doing paid posts and things like that. Like your core, Lori, I believe, and you've had an incredibly successful long career, but it's to help people and to help your audience, right? So I would just say, like, when you see these affiliate programs as a consumer, or when a sponsor, you're thinking about paying affiliates, just try to make sure it's authentic. Like Jessie, you've talked about High Level so many times. Like, I know you actually love it. It's great.
I used High Level for a whole
buyer
year
beware.
before. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, not High Level, but other things that aren't actually authentic.
Right. And I hear you, because I've been approached and people have offered to pay me like $300 to post for whatever tool. And I'm like, who are you? Can I get access to that tool? No. Like, what? You want me to post it? That no.
Yeah.
And
Makes
I
no
love
sense.
what Leslie said. You're trading your social capital for money, but social capital is finite. That term social capital is so interesting, which, by the way, if you've never read the book Bowling Alone, they introduced the word social capital to me. And that book is really all about, how we're moving away from that community aspect in all aspects of life. We're literally bowling alone now. Whereas like we used to like bowl with friends, or we're eating dinner alone now. Whereas like we used to have people over for dinners. But like human connection is becoming more individualized compared to more communal, which happens in a capitalistic society. Whatever, that book is great, but I love that she used this word. It's so important, and we have to think about social capital because it does become more important than financial capital in many ways.
Right.
But how do we scale? It's easy to think of scaling financial capital. How do we scale that social capital within a community, Dan?
Okay. I'm going to give you a framework that I've used a bunch of times. If you've listened to me in other podcasts, you've probably heard this before, but step by step, how do you scale community? The first thing you need to do is identify like what community means to you and what it means to your executives, right? A lot of times with community marketing, you operate in spaces that aren't directly attributable. And that's a huge advantage because it means that other people aren't operating there, because 90% of all the CMOs in SaaS right now need success metrics to give to their CFOs around what's working. So for example, like if I were to send out a gift, this is something I did once at Chili Piper. We had our customer advisory board. We made them all into Pokemon cards. I saw this idea being rehashed recently, which is pretty cool. And we sent them all these cards. Lori got a card. I think
I still have mine.
All women become 15% more powerful or something. And then about 75% of those 60 people reposted those cards, and it reached 1 million people. Now, that I'm not like, here's a Pokemon card, please post on LinkedIn with these UTM parameters, right? A lot of community marketing operates in the dark funnel, operates in spaces that aren't as easily trackable. So the first step to scaling community marketing is to have this conversation with your exec leadership, being like, we're going to see our website traffic increase. We'll see our demo requests increase. It's almost like addition by subtraction. Here's what we have a high degree of likelihood of a belief is that behind this. Let's run a series of experiments in community marketing to see if we get this correlation between organic impressions on LinkedIn or events or whatever and website traffic and ultimately demo flow and close won deals. So after you've had that conversation, the next question becomes like, okay, where do I build community? And for this, I'd recommend you build something called an influence map. Oftentimes marketers get so fancy. We're like, let's do all this crazy targeting. Just ask your customers, ask them what blogs do they listen to? What podcasts are they in? What communities are they involved in? What events are they attending, right? Now that you've built this influence map, the question becomes, what customers do I have that I can deploy to these spaces that hold influence? So you deploy the customers to the spaces, and then in like Pavilion or whatever Slack community, when the question comes up, what is the best, CRM solution or whatever, an authentic customer says, oh, use this, use that. And that's basically how I generally try to scale community marketing. I run everything as an experiment. And then when that experiment's concluded, there is a kind of an explicit conversation with executives that a successful experiment means more budget or more headcount or get off my back on meeting myopic level attribution for Pokemon cards or whatever. That's how I would scale it to some extent, although it's really, it's really bespoke for every company and every ICP.
Yeah, it really is bespoke. I love that word. It's a perfect word for it. What's your take on that, Lori?
Well, when Dan's talking about an influence map, I mean, I feel like that's what we've done for years is try to get to know our buyers. Sam McKenna calls it show me, you know me. It's about knowing where they go, what they read, what they do, what their customers do. And it's a foundation for being successful in building a relationship with your buyers and your customers.
Definitely.
Yeah, one other thing I would say on scaling the community is like, maybe don't like maybe the community is actually just all about you and your revenue and you're making money for your business, and maybe your customers will see that, and maybe it'll ruin the community, right? Like something I love about great community makers is they see a need and they solve it. Like look at Lori's She Sells community from a couple of years ago. And this is something I think it's kind of entering into the third question, but it's like there are a lot of communities out there run by men that aren't getting along with each other, that are like adversarial or whatever. And no one fits within any gender trope or whatever. But this woman, Rain Eisler, was telling me a while back that like the way, and she's like one of the founders of ecofeminism. She's like amazing. That it's like, to some extent, the way we've been socialized in the US is that like the female psyche is more about empower, where the male psyche is more about power. And like, I look at what Lori did with She Sells a few years ago. She aggregated all the women in sales communities and provided a resource so they can better collaborate and help each other. So what I would say is like, if you're going to scale a community, first ask like, is this just about you and your money? Because if so, it's not going to be authentic. It's not going to work. Is it about something broader, like helping people use your product, helping them grow their careers, like helping overcome like the patriarchy or whatever? Like that is where you'll actually find people authentically want to engage because it's real.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, I saw Heidi Solomon Orlick chime in. Hi, Heidi. She also did the same thing. She had different women write chapters in a book, and then she launched a book tour and was very successful with that. And Dan, I want you to see. I still have my chili.
That's so cool.
My family thought I was pretty cool to have that.
I love that.
Yeah, shout out to Caitlin Barr, the graphic design artist who made those. She's actually looking for work right now. I can put her LinkedIn in the chat, but she's like a gifted, somebody's going to snag her really quickly. Really, really impressive marketer.
Cool.
Well, awesome. Yeah, definitely. Someone go out and snag her because those are really cool. But Lori, it's funny that Heidi chimed in here because, I have to give full credit to Dan. Dan had this really awesome idea to, ask a few people some questions about you before this episode. And Heidi was one of those people who answered. And I just want to play that really quick.
I'm so incredibly happy that you are being honored here today. It is well deserved for sure. You and I met face to face for the first time in November 2021, and you have been my rock ever since. You were incredibly supportive of the launch of Girls Who Sell. You were a contributor in my book, Heels to Deals, and you have been a huge part of my community and growth ever since. I'm so grateful that you came in to my life and that you're being honored for the trailblazer that you are and for all the work that you have done to support women in sales. Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh
you,
boy,
Heidi.
a little blindsided there. Sorry.
Yeah, Lori, but seriously, Lori, you're so amazing. And it's like, I don't know, I might get in trouble for this. I always feel awkward talking about gender issues as like a super privileged white boy. But like most of the teams I've managed have been primarily women. And like, despite like having open conversations, like there's some things as a man that you just like can't understand. Or like you can't empathize. Like I'm not harassed in the workplace, like, things like that. And I'm just so grateful for the support you have, Lori, not only supporting other women, but like helping men like me support everybody. But also, like, there's some things I can't do. So, like, knowing that I can establish you as a mentor for the people on the teams that I support has just meant the worst to me. And I'm almost like close to tears now because it's like I've never worked at a job where my female employees have the ones that I serve haven't been harassed, like to some extent by customers or by whatever. And it just like you being able to be there for them has just been really meaningful. It's helped me retain some of the best staff I've ever worked with, as well as treat people with dignity. So I know there are maybe hundreds of people who have videos like that they would want to submit about you, Lori, and we're all just so grateful for you.
Thank you. And I would say you stand up for women, and a lot of men don't do that. So you need to take some of that credit too for putting your neck on the line. And I know you have. So it really means a lot that it's because women, we can't change things in SaaS or B2B or, whatever we're looking at. And I focus on sales. We can't do it alone. We need men like you to speak up. So thank you, Dan.
Yes. Thank you, Dan.
Thank
You
you,
are
Heidi.
very inspiring. And I knew right away when I saw you on stage, I'm like, that man is going to help lead us forward. And so I am just so honored. And of course, when I approached you, you were so approachable. You not only agreed to come on this show, you came on one of my clients' shows. And, it's just been such an honor and privilege to get to know you. But, real quick, Lori, there was one other message from someone. Let me see if I can bring them in.
You guys.
Hi, Lori. I mean, there are countless ways that you have helped me, encouraged me, and lifted me up to be where I am today, doing what I am today, and who I am today. But I think that the biggest impact that I haven't shared with you is how you showed me the way to raise others, how to promote others, how to rising ships and all of those things. And it's all because of the example that you set. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate you and love our friendship. And I can't wait to see you soon. Happy New Year.
Oh my gosh. You guys are too much.
No, yeah, I hadn't gotten to meet Carol, so now I'm connected with Carol. But wow, you are out there just doing some amazing things, Lori.
Carol's awesome. And when you reach out to support people and help them out, and then they take advantage of it and run with it, that's a great feeling for the person that is, that offered the first hand. And Carol Mahoney's a great example of someone who's really, the sky's the limit for her.
She's so good. Another great book.
Yeah.
Well,
And it was like a best-selling book also, like within its space. Like, yeah.
And she did the work to make it good too. It wasn't an accident. She worked really hard. Yeah.
And this is what something that people don't understand about. And once again, like I do think you're giving me too much credit earlier, but like what people don't understand about like being a man who's intentionally decided to try to align with people like Lori and support them is it's like you can do something because it's the right reason and then get benefits from it that you weren't expecting. Like a while back, I realized all my mentors were men, and I tried to intentionally diversify my mentors. So I asked Lori to be my mentor, a bunch of other people, and now most of the top mentors in my life are women. Not because of like, but just because I don't know. I'm just getting more value there. Like I don't know how to explain it. So it's just um, like Carol's a great example. Like you introduced me to Carol. She was selling her book. My company purchased 50 copies of her book and gave them away at a HubSpot event. Then she goes and invites all of her people to the event, and we get to give away these books. Like oftentimes, like supporting people, it seems like you're doing something for them, but if you're doing community marketing, it all just uplifts each other in like a really amazing way. So I'm a huge fan of Carol. Like promoting her book at an event that I did 2 years ago was a huge part of the success of the event. And like people sometimes think, oh, like let's support women because of philanthropy or whatever. Like they achieve quotas at higher rates.
Yeah.
They're not out there like creating as much toxicity, I believe personally. Like so, it's just like it's not like a philanthropic thing. Like Raini also talked about like when the percentage of women in legislatures is higher, the countries by every indicator of how it goes like perform better. That actually correlates more closely to the welfare of a society than GDP. Like the percentage of women in legislatures. When a police force has over 30% women, corruption levels get cut in half. So it's like so many people, particularly men, are like, oh, like D&I, let's do all this stuff. Oh, maybe we won't. But it's not about D&I. It's about like actually having a functional world in business. Yeah.
You know, I was invited to be on a panel to talk about women in sales at a conference about a week ago in Nashville. And it's a big multi-billion-dollar company called Concentrix. I don't know if you've heard of them, but my first comment, this was for customers and prospects, a big summit for customers and prospects. And I said, you want to have a women in sales panel? Because I was just so surprised because most everybody, like you're saying, Dan, they're like, ooh, we don't talk about DEI anymore, and it's a bad thing, and it's super political and all this. And they have that in their mission that they want to be diverse. And they were so gracious. And I said that I would do it if there was a man on the panel. And, I got inspiration from you on that, Dan, and so there was a great guy named Dan Riley from Concentrix who was on the panel, and everybody laughed at him at first because he was on a panel with a bunch of women. It was called Women in Sales. And then he started talking and everybody listened, and it was a really well done segment. I was really pleased that they did it.
That's incredible. Well,
that is good. And I like including men in the thing. Don't get me wrong. Like the problem is like some men won't listen to women.
Right.
Like, and I have this all the time when like an employee of mine like sends an email to someone and they're like, they need to hear from a man, no, because they won't accept it. And it's just like gross.
I mean, there's a reason we need women's communities.
Yeah. I just think it's gross, but it is true that like sometimes you need men on the panels because like the people you're trying to reach the most won't even listen to women. Maybe you don't, maybe there's no hope for those people and you should just ignore them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to get in trouble for this podcast. I can tell.
That was one of the ideas behind this podcast. I was getting sick of manels. And I was like, well, at least if I have a show, it's never going to be a manel because at least I'll be there. But, speaking of that and just the power of women's communities, there really is, I've found a lot of power in women's communities. I run a WhatsApp group. It's a free group for women business owners. We've got women in sales, women in marketing. A lot of women who were on that sales intel list, the top 300 B2B women in SaaS, a lot of B2B marketers and salespeople in there. But we had a retreat last year. We got together. It was this year, still 2024. We got together in person and just connected, but we have weekly themes. And one of the themes that really always takes off is lifting each other up, like lift as we rise, like who's someone that you can like post about on LinkedIn that's in the group today? Who's someone that you can help? There's just a lot of power that's come from it. I've seen people become TikTok affiliates because I'm sharing how to become a TikTok affiliate in there. I've seen people like start their own side hustle because they see what I'm doing in high level. There's people starting to go live because they saw what I was doing with the live stream, which is really where it started. But there's power in it, and you've seen it more than I have. So could you tell us about the true power of women's communities?
Well, you're leading by example, and that's everything you said. There are examples that you're leading by, and I don't think a community does all that on its own. You have to demonstrate things over and over and over and over, just like teaching someone. Adults learn in bits and bytes and in repetition and reinforcement, and so you keep demonstrating it, and then people pick up on it. And I don't think it's a women for me. I'm not in a women exclusive community too often. I'm in communities now. I recently just got on the board of a community called Legacy, and it's for mostly women, but we also have men who are allies. So it's not just everyone's invited in, and they're corporate as well as non-corporate. And so I like that mix of people. I've been in many women-only communities, and I'm focused on sales. So I'm different from other people that are in bigger, broader communities. But for me, until I see more women in sales and sales leadership, I'm going to keep championing those groups and those causes because it's important. And not only is it good for the company, as Dan was saying, like their numbers, we can prove this out. We have lots of science behind this to explain why it's smart to do, but it also changes someone's life. Like when I got into sales, I got off the poverty track. I was, I wasn't in poverty, but I was on the train, and it wasn't going to get any better unless I changed my situation and my surroundings and my income. And that's what business to business selling did for me. So I want to help keep championing that as long as I can.
100%.
Now, there's something really interesting about, I was talking to, I think, Sheldon Banks about this, because Chili Piper was supporting this org in Chicago, Lumity, that tried to get kind of disadvantaged folks into, and this isn't exactly women-centric, just more, but it's like into STEM roles, right? Science, technology, I don't know what it stands for, mathematics, but it's like sales should be included in STEM because it's
STEM
like
with an S on the end. That's what I say. STEMs.
Yeah, STEMs, where it's like, this is a viable path for people who haven't, taken Hack Reactor or learned how to code to like go out and make a ton of money because they're gifted. But there are barriers in there. Even just around the differences between the ways men and women write resumes, right? Like they had AI go through a bunch of things a while back. There's this, I don't remember what it is, but basically like AI was looking through people's resumes and determined that the thing that was going to help you most as a VP of sales, the thing that correlated most closely with being at a VP of sales was being a college lacrosse player, right? That had the highest correlation. Why? Yeah. Because like AI is feeding off the existing biases that we have and things like that. So it's just like sales is so important for enfranchisement of everyone.
Agreed.
Yeah, just so much power there. Well, thank you both so much for sharing that. And I just have to say there is a few more things we have to get to. So I want to make sure we jump to that and do the guru of the week still, because both of you had some amazing gurus of the week. And speaking of lifting as we rise, I was talking about how we do that in the Women Wave community. We lift as we rise, right? Everyone should do that. That's what the guru of the week is all about. So if Dan and Lori are these like amazing people that we all follow and we get to learn from, and they share their knowledge with us, like who do they follow? Who's their guru of the week? That's the inspiration of this segment. So it's the guru of the week. Ooh, ooh, the guru of the week. I'm going to and I'm going to put them up on screen. I'm going to pull myself out. So it's just going to be the two of you, and you have to feed off each other and tell everyone why they should go follow these people on LinkedIn.
All right. I'll go first because I'll say I have hundreds of people I can recommend. And it's always hard when people want me to pick. But off the top of my head, when I was asked about this, I thought of Leslie and Melissa with WinsDay Women, because they are building community and they're very community minded, and they're showcasing all these amazing women in all sorts of different areas across business. And so tip of the hat to them for doing that.
I want to second that. Leslie and Melissa are great. At Apollo, we sponsored WinsDay Women, and then I was a huge fan of Gated as well. Like, they're just really smart people in general, who also happen to run a badass women's community.
Yes.
I follow them both.
Yeah. And how about yours?
Okay. I'll go next, but people got to follow Lori. Lori, I know you said that, like, I'm like, you're my mentor. You're like, I'm your mentor. Like, we are not the same. Like, you are, you're just amazing. So I am just so grateful to follow you and to learn from you and to have read your book. A couple other people you should follow. One is Danny Howe. So there was a pretty decent size exodus from Apollo recently, and Danny is there like holding down the community function herself. She's a gifted community marketer, working at companies like Rippling. She ran the Mutiny community for a long time. She helped Common Room build up their community. Just a really gifted marketer you should definitely follow. The other person is Mejuli, who, this is why I'm saying, like, I get too much credit. Like, the bar for being a male manager of women is so low. You literally just need to like not harass your employees and not talk over them, and you're like better than 90% of men. So it's like a lot of my success has been because Mejuli and Taylor Boger have followed me from company to company, and I just have been decent to them. So it's like, follow Mejuli. She's amazing. She just was given an honor as one of the top marketers to follow by Exit 5 as well. And there are a ton of people to follow, but Danny and Mejuli would be two really amazing people to follow.
That's awesome.
And Lori.
That is awesome. Thank you both so much for sharing. And what's super awesome about that is one of the people you had on the screen there has a message for you as well, Lori.
Good morning. I wanted to give a big shout out to Lori Richardson, who I've had the pleasure of becoming friends with over the last couple of years. She's been a mentor, a sounding board, and a real champion for what I've been doing. And so she needs all the kudos and all the shout outs in the world. Thank you, Lori, for being a great friend.
Wow, you're just like leaving an impression everywhere, Lori.
My goodness. I'm all fired up now. That's great.
No, really, it's an honor to have you on. So many people have such amazing things to say about you, including Dan here with us, and likewise for you, Dan. One of our best performing posts on the Revenant Company page was the post we did with just your image on it. People know you. You are definitely an influencer, whether you like it or not. But really, thank you both so much for sharing that and your guru of the week and the prizes. But before we go, I want to make sure that we give ample time to both of you to let people know like what it is that you're doing and who it is that you're serving right now. And if there's someone that might want to reach out to you for help, how could they reach out to you and reach you? We'll start with you, Dan.
Okay, so I think there have been a couple things overstated about me during this podcast, but one thing might have been understated. I have the best LinkedIn URL of all time. It's linkedin.com/in/great marketing. So I domain squatted it the first day it was available. If you want to find me, the best way is going to be to find me on LinkedIn. I am kind of plotting my next move right now. I have a couple clients that I'm basically a fractional CMO for, and I'm taking on 2 more clients. But I'm also looking for a company like Series A through Series C that wants to build something huge and potentially, I'm like the serial monogamist equivalent of a marketer. Like I want to always do my own thing, but I always just find one company and give them everything I have. So that's me.
I love that. Well,
Right.
some companies about to be very lucky. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then Layla just tagged in your gurus of the week. But Lori, could you tell the audience the same for you? How can they reach you, and who do you help, and how can you help them?
Yeah, the best way to reach me is through LinkedIn. Mine is Score More Sales. I love that yours is great marketing, Dan. I didn't even know that about you. But find me through Score More Sales website, Women's Sales Pros, Instagram, LinkedIn. And I'm doing a bunch of different things. I'm working on building a newsletter. I'm working on building a podcast, and also helping companies solve their sales issues. So I'm happy to talk to anybody about any of that.
And she comes highly recommended. So definitely reach out to both of them, and we'll be giving away those prizes after the show. We'll reach out to a few winners. Thank you to everyone who entered. And Dan, Lori, thank you so much. We will connect you with people who won the prizes via email. And we really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, Dan. Good to see you. Have a great trip.
So great to see you. Truly an honor to be speaking with both of you.
Thank you. I'm going to close this out with a video. Bye.